Hey everybody, there are a ton of ways that you can follow us online. We've got our website, realnerdspodcast.com, that you can go to and you can read articles and find the podcast episodes there as well. If you like social media, you can follow us on Facebook at Real Nerds Podcast or on Twitter and Instagram at Real Nerds. You can also call us anytime and leave a voicemail at 720-6nerds5, and then we'll play your voicemail on the show. Thanks for listening. I hope you like us.
Welcome to Real Nerds Podcast, unofficially the official podcast of Denver Fan Expo 2022 and beyond. I am your host for this evening, Zach, or morning or afternoon. Hell, you can listen to this shit whenever you want. But I'm not alone. I'm joined, as always, by
Brad.
Yay! It's another Brad Zach episode, guys, so buckle in. It's going to be nothing but all the energy that one can muster in a single podcast. Yay!
Yeah, Ryan's out doing work stuff, and Corinne didn't want to be part of this episode, but she does have a downloaded Catching the Classics to add, so
wonderful.
So remember to check that, and I believe Ryan will be sending his review. So
yeah, which by the way, we do that. Speaking of which, we do see movies on this show each and every week, as you just alluded to. And this week we saw Prisoners of the Ghostland, the new Nicolas Cage outing. So stay tuned for our review. We'll play the trailer for you, and then we'll spoil the shit out of it. And given our Letterboxd reviews, sir, I have a feeling you and I are going to differ on this movie. So
I know I really wish Ryan was here to back me up. But I really wish Henry was here because he rated it so high.
Really? What did he rate it? I didn't
4
even
stars.
See it. 4 stars. Oh wow! I gave it 3. So
I really want to know Henry's opinion because
he's
a tough customer. So
yeah, he's a tough customer who, amongst his favorite films, is Dunstan Checks In, Scooby-Doo 2, Monsters Unleashed. But we love him. We love him for that very reason. How you doing, bud?
As I said earlier, I'm going through some stuff.
Yeah, the saga of the failing hard drives is a never-ending uphill battle. I understand.
Yeah,
it's a bunch of horse shit right there.
It's just the second time in like 4 years that I'm dealing with this, and
yeah, because for listeners who may not remember, one of the hard drives containing a lot of the essential Real Nerd stuff failed 4 years ago. So we are. I believe it's we no longer have access to the raw files of the pod show, which definitely sucks.
I think we have the first episode because that was like misplaced somewhere, fortunately. But everything else, yeah.
So basically, if we wanted to do a 4K master of it, we'd be screwed. So.
And a lot of the episodes between like 2013 and 15, I think those are all, the finals are out there for us to like repurpose, but the original source stuff is gone. So
yeah. So unfortunately, this is a dark day in Real Nerds history if we've got another hard drive failing on us. So, but I am fairly sure that we will still continue onward and upward as we always have on this show. Have you been up to anything else besides that, Mr. Brad?
Yeah, I took a bunch of photos for the comedy festival a couple weekends ago, and I literally just finished editing them. It took, I guess, an entire week to get through 6,000 photos.
Shoot. That's still pretty efficient for 6,000 photos in a week. That's not bad.
Yeah, every week an hour I've been cutting through them, finding the 80% that aren't even necessary and weeding those out and touching up the rest. So
very good. Wonderful.
I'm pretty over it right now. ready to edit our episodes that have not come out yet.
Yeah, I understand that. As for me, I've been fucking podcasting every which way but fucking loose. So
I know. You've been posting like all kinds of. Seems like you're more invested in other people's shows than ours. Boom. What's up?
Whoa. Flagship show always takes priority, sir. I will never leave the Real Nerds team until Ryan yells at me to leave. So
I listened to yours and Zach's team up with Lloyd Kaufman. I was like, Lloyd Kaufman's never been on Real Nerds. What's going on here?
You guys have had Timothy Quill. You guys have had Georges Jonti. You guys have had several other celebrity interviews. Isn't it about time?
Not in years, Zach. It's been years.
Isn't it time that the Ballyhoo got itself a little bit of an uptick to get itself started, get its legs going, my friend? You know,
I'm just joking around. You could,
yeah. No, that was a fun interview. He wants to come back apparently, so that's kind of cool. So.
Cool. Yeah. Definitely name drop the other show you're on at some point.
Yeah, I'll just be like, yeah. Speaking of hashtag Shakespeare shitstorm, my podcast, the Real Nerds podcast, will be glad to review it for you. You know, which, hey, you know what? Maybe we should. If we have a down week and whatnot, maybe we should review the latest Troma joint.
The main host isn't like a huge fan of yours, but you know, we'll have you on.
Well, yeah, you know, it can just be you, me, and we'll bring Zach Bynes in. He's been wanting to come more on Real Nerds, so we'll get him on. We'll get him on board. It'll be fun. He's been very appreciative of what the show did for him in quarantine. So you know, like that's a nice thing to keep. You don't need celebrity interviews, Brad. You've been warming the hearts of your friends. You know.
Yeah, no, I'm way more happy that like people's creative endeavors inspire other people to do their own. So
yeah, this show didn't inspire me. Fuck you guys.
Oh yeah, you didn't get inspired to make Ballyhoo off of us? No, not at all.
Yeah, I was just like, man, these guys really hate black and white movies. I better just make a movie about loving black and white movies. So that was the inspiration point. Your hatred inspired.
I don't hate black and white movies. I'm just over them. It just feels like people are so obsessed with stuff that's like already been celebrated and already been like put up on a pedestal, and like this is why we can't get new stuff.
You're not welcome back to Bally.
I'm just
we can learn those lessons though to make new stuff. That's the cool thing.
Yeah, but I think people are hitting the nostalgia button way too much and just like too focused on like did we analyze and obsess over the old stuff enough before we move on? It's just like, just move on. Like the people who made that stuff didn't care about what was happening before them. Like they just did it.
I'll counter that with an argument that the 80s gets talked about way too much. You guys really love that decade way too much.
Oh no, I just admitted I was like, I hit that button a lot.
Oh, I thought you meant Golden Age Hollywood. I was like,
oh,
I guess it's all encompassing. You know,
yeah, just talking about in general, like I don't know, in my lifetime, like right now, like across the board, people are just like obsessed with the past.
Yeah. No, yeah. Nostalgia is a definite, it's something that when we do Ballyhoo, I'm kind of like, do we need to talk about stuff from the past too much? But like my impetus for it is, one, I'm passionate about that particular angle on it. But number two, we're dealing with stuff that's generally non-IP and also still, to my mind, still has a value to discuss, especially considering how a lot of occurrences throughout history and time keep overlapping with each other. But also, again, there's still lessons to be taught, and hopefully we're not going through too many of the more established classics. We are trying to find some of those deeper threads. Like that's why I like our Batman episode, which I was re-listening to the other day. It's just we're talking about a film that doesn't get talked about when it comes to the grand scheme of like Golden Age Hollywood, or even like the 60s going into the 70s. So, hopefully we find some of our more niche things. But yeah, in terms of like, I do feel like the 80s in particular, I'm very burnt out on. Like 90s nostalgia is actually kind of like piquing my interest by comparison. But
yeah,
even
like,
then,
I love it. But yeah, people are really mining the shit out of it right now. It's just like, you're just really desperate for something new, just seeing like what's the new thing, not the
Well, here's the
repurposing
question.
of something old.
Here's the question. Is Prisoners of the Ghostland one of the new things? You'll have to stay tuned for the rest of the review to find out. We do also talk about what we've been watching, movie news, Blu-rays and DVDs. And I'm not going to lie, guys. One of the best things that the Real Nerds ever do is go around town. Brad, what's going on around town?
Hey, film buddies, follow me around Denver.
Well, if you go to the drive-in, the 88 drive-in, they are still playing Candyman, Malignant, and Don't Breathe 2 in their lineup, going through Thursday, September 30th. So hopefully this podcast drops before then. two behind right now. It's pretty bad. And then the Holiday Twin is showing Shang-Chi in the Legend of the Ten Rings, and they will be adding Venom, Let There Be Carnage this weekend.
Very nice. Very cool. So there you go. We're starting to feel the October breeze wafting in, my friend.
Yeah, it seems like there's no double features, so it's just each of those movies on separate screens. So
yeah. I'm glad that the drive-in's still kicking around for at least October, so it means I've still got a chance to get up there. So that's really nice. I've
only gone to each one once this year.
It's strange given that I now have a car. In the last 2 years I haven't gone to the drive-in yet, so I've got to correct that shit.
I know. Ryan hasn't gone in 4 years that I've been doing this. 5 years now. God.
Yeah. Well, he's got a kid. It might be difficult to keep him settled or something. I don't know.
That's the best reason to go to the drive-in. You can just let your kid be wild and no one's going to be disturbed by it.
It's like in The Simpsons when Homer lets Chief Wiggum out of the car. Run along, boy. You're free now.
Yeah. That's the main reason to go to the drive-in is you can just do whatever you want and not disturb other people.
Along there, if you want to go up to Boulder too, by the way, for Dairy Arts Center, Friday Night Weird, the program hosted by a friend of the show, Jack Hanley. They'll be showing Knocking on October 8th at 8:30 p.m. with a $12 ticket price. Knocking is a film from Sweden. The plot is a woman, Molly, who has just experienced a traumatic incident, is unnerved by a haunting knocking sound from upstairs in her new apartment building. As the noises become more desperate and increasingly sound like cries for help, she confronts her neighbors, but it seems like no one else can hear them. In an unsettling quest for truth, Molly soon realizes that no one believes her and begins to question if she even believes herself, a realization that is perhaps even more chilling. What is going on? Stay tuned. And remember, folks, screenings are vaccinated only, so get your fucking vaccines. Thank you very much. And that's what's going on around town.
I got a question. When the drive-in closes and I stop doing this segment, what are you going to do?
Well, I've got Friday Night Weird, but also since the Chez Artistes has come back, and we've also got TCM events coming around the range, those are things that we can always promote as well. I know for a fact, because Ryan sent me this info, is that sometime within October, Chez Artistes will be showing a one-night-only screening of the Boris Karloff documentary from Shout Factory. So I will post more information about that as it gets closer.
Yeah, I'd like to know where you got that because I couldn't find it.
He sent me a little bit of a, here, actually, why don't I just pull it up right now? Hold for information, please. Here we go. So, guys, the same night as Knocking, you have a typical choice ahead of you, because on Friday, October 8th, you will be able to see at the landmark Chez Artistes, Boris Karloff, the man behind the monster. So get your tickets for that if you would like to go see a documentary about one of horror's great acting legends. So it'll be Friday, October 8th. So if you want to go, my friend, I think, I am off that day, ?
That's rude. You should be at the 48-hour best of.
Oh, really? Well, do you think we'll be seeing a certain superhero team grace the presence of the 48-hour?
I don't know. They haven't announced the best of yet.
Oh, no.
It's a week away. I don't know.
Oh, God. We need that information yesterday, my friends.
I guess 2 weeks away, but still, it's like, if they don't announce it this week, I don't know how they're going to expect people to show up at short notice.
Well, you know what? They better get that information up to us ASAP, my friend, because I need to know if Justice Team has made it into the ranks of the 48-hour best of.
Yeah, you and me both.
Yep. Right on. Well, that was going on around town. Now let's jump to the wide world of movie news.
It's real news.
All right, kicking off movie news this week. The Super Mario Brothers animated film, set for release on December 21st, 2022, has revealed its all-star cast. So we've got Chris Pratt playing the role of Mario. We got Anya Taylor-Joy playing Princess Peach, Charlie Day as Luigi, Jack Black as Bowser, Keegan-Michael Key as Toad, Seth Rogen as Donkey Kong, Fred Armisen as Cranky Kong, Kevin Michael Richardson as Kamek, and Sebastian Maniscalco as Spike. So that's your cast for the Super Mario Brothers Universal Illumination team-up film here. It sounds like
Charles Martinet's in there somewhere.
Charles Martin Day?
Yeah, the actual game voice of Mario. He's listed on there, but he's not playing Mario, like at least 95% of the time, I'm guessing. He might be subbing for Chris Pratt whenever he's doing like wahoo or yippee.
Ah, gotcha. Yeah, that makes sense then. Because even Chris Pratt can't top the wahoo, and here we go. So yeah, look for the Super Mario Brothers movie next December. Jumping into...
Or watch the one from 1993. A weird fun time.
You know what? If we don't get a Kino Lorber edition of that within the next year to coincide with it, I'd be pretty fucking surprised. It's almost as if, though, the way these things are marketed, they wait until it's going to tie in with some big release. But maybe. We'll see. I don't know. Jumping into the world of Netflix news, Tiger King was a big sensation last year, especially at the top of the pandemic, which gave the world a glimpse into the mad world of Joe Exotic and seemingly distracted people enough to forget that animals were abused in that project, which is why even though I recommend that Netflix series, I also caution people to understand that that's the point of that show is not about Joe Exotic and Carol Baskin's infighting. It's about the fact that these animals are fucking abused. Now you'll have another chance to hopefully grasp that concept when Tiger King 2 comes out. Yes, that's right. We're getting more Tiger King. The follow-up to the series will follow the further adventures of Exotic and Carol Baskin. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. Brad, did we even watch Tiger King? I can't remember.
I did, and I'm over it.
Yeah, I loved it when I watched it. It was an immense suspense ride. But seeing the reaction to people embracing the figures rather than discussing the neglect and abuse of animals was just like, I don't think people watch this correctly. But whatever floats their boat, I guess. Whatever makes you happy is the ultimate lesson of the day. But I will be curious to see what they do with more Tiger King. Anyway, moving on. We've got another James Bond movie coming out in the next couple of weeks, No Time to Die, the film that's been delayed for over a year and a half since the pandemic started. This will be the final outing for Mr. Daniel Craig as James Bond. And the search for a new Bond would seemingly be already underway, but it appears that Barbara Broccoli and Michael G. Wilson have said that they are holding off until next year. Said, we're not thinking about it at all. We want Daniel to have his time of celebration. Next year, we'll start thinking about the future. He's been such a great Bond. Those are big shoes to fill. I can't even think if it's possible. Looks like we're not going to be getting any notification of a new Bond anytime soon. Looks like they're really going to try to play their cards right and have some further time away from Bond. So this may end up being one of those like bigger lack of Bond presence for a couple of years to get those affairs in order. I don't know. I mean, at this point, we've already had discussions from Daniel Craig pointing out that like you don't need a female Bond. What you need is better female written roles overall across the board. So I think that there's probably a bigger insistence that they're going to keep it a man. And in terms of who they get, we'll just have to wait and see. But it will definitely be very hard to replace Mr. Daniel Craig. We've got some Marvel news, and not the kind that we're used to hearing about. Copyright termination has been sought by the heirs of Stan Lee, Steve Ditko, and Gene Colan in regards to the rights that Disney Marvel has on the Marvel characters that were developed by Lee, Ditko, etc. These characters have a termination copyright termination legibility given the time that's been separated out since their acquisition. And so in August, the administrator of Ditko's estate filed a notice of termination on Spider-Man, which first, as we all know, first appeared in 1962. Under the termination provisions of copyright law, authors of their heirs can reclaim rights once granted to publishers after awaiting statutory set period of time. And if this were to happen, Marvel would lose full ownership of the rights to these characters by June of 2023, at least for Spider-Man and Steve Ditko, as far as that's concerned. So they wouldn't lose ownership of the character, but they would be having to pay a huge chunk of money profits-wise to the heirs of the estates, which they were able to successfully shut this down when it came to the creator of Thor back in 2011. So my guess is that they're probably gonna cite legal precedent within the same case that they had in 2011 and work to throw those cases out of court. But it does seem frustrating that the heirs of those creators cannot get aren't fully profiting off of the mega success of these franchises, especially given that they would have never had a chance to fully recoup the benefits when they made those stories initially, because they were work for hire under Marvel and other companies like DC. And in fact, the lawyer who led the first case for something of this nature with the creators of Superman, which was a case that was ultimately rejected in court. It's interesting to note that he's leading the charge on this one as well. And I frankly think at this point, given the billions of dollars that this company generates from those characters, I see absolutely no reason to not throw them a few bucks. So we'll have to see what goes on. It doesn't look like this is going to fully affect any Marvel properties in production, but nevertheless, it does mean that it is something to consider within the grander scheme of when you digest these bigger franchise films, is that there are people who get screwed out of rightful ownership and for the sake of your entertainment. Moving on, we've had some deaths.
Oh, I guess I don't get to say anything about it. Cool.
Oh, no, go ahead. Yeah, I was waiting for you to jump in, but I kept having to ramble. So
you didn't leave any space for anyone to talk.
I'm sorry. Brad, what do you have to say about this?
I was gonna say, like, I understand, contractually, those characters were created as part of a work for hire. That's not unusual, but I'm just like, come on. Like, after all the progress we made, like adding Bill Finger to the credit for the Batman movies and everything, like, you're still going to try and wrestle ownership away from, the people who generated all that, IP for you. It's just like,
yeah, especially when it comes to the estate of Stan Lee. That seems like you're really sticking a middle finger at the man who,
like, he
innovated this.
Like, when Endgame wrapped, like, there was that whole celebrate Stan Lee stuff that they did, and now they're like, now we're gonna take his creation and make it solely ours and fuck his family.
Yeah, and by the way, I should have said up front that the Thor situation was a result of the Jack Kirby estate. So they've been fucking over not just Stan Lee, but they've always been fucking over the creators that got passed over in favor of Stan Lee's ever looming presence. So, Steve Ditko's estate deserves dump trucks of money for all the fucking like Spider-Man product we received over the last 20 years. So this is just like, you know what's funny, Brad? I mean, stop me if I'm wrong because you're a bigger DC head than I am. But given the fact that we have been able to add the Bill Finger into the mix with DC, it seems like DC's fucking learned their lesson on this, and it would behoove Marvel to take a page out of their book and to not fucking fight this.
Well, I know Warner Brothers or like AT&T, I guess now, they did that, but I totally expect them to renege on that eventually. So like Marvel is. So
yeah, I really like, again, like that. I guess when I was rambling on and I didn't leave space for you, which I'm sorry I did that, by the way, sir. Is that like that's like another added element of frustration that I have with some of the bigger franchises that are based off of these properties that will work for hire. Is just like, we don't understand like how much shit this like fucking this shit can cause when people aren't properly compensated. And between that, the Scarlett Johansson thing, and on top of the fact that production might shut down pretty soon because of a IATSE strike, which good for them, like they need better working conditions. So like to me, like it just seems like the bigger picture isn't being observed by any of the companies that are making huge profits out of off of a comic book franchise. And that's disturbing to say the least. Especially since you shouldn't really have copyright. I just want to finish this. Sorry. Like copyright stuff in particular, like the amount of renewal it goes through just to keep it in the hands of one company sometimes disgusts me.
I just don't know, like the people at the top, like what they're thinking is like, okay, so they're going to do this because the fans appreciate Marvel filmmaking more than the comics. Like it's just going to piss off the people who go see your movies. Like they're going to stand with the creators. Like who that loves Marvel's movies is going to like put the comics in the rear view and support the studios over like, yeah.
Some people might not even know that this case is going on, so therefore they're just not even going to think of it.
I imagine the average person, yeah, but just like the diehards that make these things profitable and like you're just generating ill will, and eventually your brand's slowly going to be reduced in appeal.
It's an online mob that I would support fully. Like, keep adding Disney on Twitter to just be like, hey dudes, like fucking knock it off. Like,
yeah,
like it's insane that it's insane that a company that frankly lost sight of its artistic integrity years ago, because it's not the same studio that Walt Disney founded, but then again, it was not the same studio Walt Disney founded when Disney was still alive. But there is a lack of tact and care, especially when, I mean, I'm not gonna lie, Disney's decisions between the premium charge on Disney Plus to the Scarlett Johansson debacle to all of this going on, it's just like, guys, like you have every opportunity in the world to behave decently, and you're not doing it. I really don't get the benefit of it. I guess the only benefit that really extends to it is ultimately the benefit that people in the higher ups level of Disney core have in terms of making a bonus or keeping extra money in their pocket. But it's just like, yeah, but I don't care about you or your money, so think of another reason. Like,
yeah, it's just bad PR, and like in the short term you'll benefit, but in the long term you'll just push away customers. So
do they think that their brand is so strong that it's immune to criticism because it took a long time for Disney to build back up its credibility after Walt's death? So, I'm just saying they're not learning from past mistakes at all. So, and even if it doesn't bite them today, it might bite them later. So,
yes, yeah, I'm sure the short term, just like the industry as a whole lost like $8 billion, just like this year and last year, because they couldn't put stuff out. But So I'm sure the people at the top are like, we're making less money. Time to like shore up the gates.
Yeah.
And part of that's like, someone's just like, well, I got to save my job. So here's my idea. Let's wrestle. Like we have this opportunity to wrestle ownership away from these people again. So we should probably take it, right? It's like, that's a terrible idea, but I don't have any other ones. And we have to generate ideas to keep our jobs. So let's just go with it. And just like see where the chips lay a year from now. And I'm just like, I'll go see a Marvel movie, but I was like, oh, I guess you got my money, but at some point I'll be like, you guys are really, I might have to stop doing this if you're going to treat the people who made you wealthy so poorly.
Yeah. And keep in mind, this is a lot of this vitriol is coming from somebody from my end who's been revisiting a lot of Disney classics and even some recent Disney fare. And I like Disney stuff. I just don't want that company to act beyond its means and treat people like garbage. So,
Yeah, well, it's definitely not the Disney company that you love. It's like every other company now. So definitely don't think like that.
No. The company, I could give two fucks about the company and what they do. I care about the product they put out, but I also have to be aware of what the cost is of that content, not just in terms of dollars, but in terms of human dignity and mental health. So,
and the IATSE too. It's just like their whole business model is streaming now. So to say that it's an untested, unproven, like, yeah, it's in its infancy, but like people aren't watching network, man. Like,
you know what?
I found clearly taken over. Just because you don't understand the model doesn't mean that you should take it out on your employees.
There is apparently a tracking service for some of these streamers, and one of them was tracking the numbers on Malignant for HBO Max. So I don't want to hear that they can't track what it's doing and equate that to a dollar value. That's nonsense. And quite frankly, if your residual outcome is not up to snuff with the demands that you place on your workers, that's fucking nonsense. You need to knock that shit off. Like, I work in retail and we get kicked around and treated like shit too. And there's a whole mentality around business practices and ethics in this country that absolutely is abysmal and has no, literally, like, at some point they've got to realize that the bottom will fall out on that. Like, because right now that's what they're going to be experiencing with a strike. So,
Yeah.
So anyway, Brad, let's move on to some positive news. While still maintaining our support for the creatives who, the heirs of the creatives who created the things we love, and also the people who work their asses off to make the things we love. We've got the return. This is some Doctor Who news for all you Doctor Who fans out there. Russell T. Davis, the initial showrunner who kicked off was instrumental in reviving Doctor Who in 2005, will be returning to the showrunner position. The current showrunner will be leaving after the Jodie Whittaker run. Davey said, "I'm beyond excited to be back on my favorite show. But we're time traveling too fast. There's a whole series of Jodie Whittaker's brilliant Doctor for me to enjoy with my friend and hero Chris Chimbal at the helm. I'm still a viewer for now." And Chimbal himself added, "It's monumentally exciting and fitting that Doctor Who's 60th anniversary will see one of Britain's screenwriting diamonds return home. Russell built the baton that is about to be handed back to him. Doctor Who, the BBC, the screen industry in Wales, and let's be honest, everyone in the world have so many reasons to be excited indeed for what lies ahead." The big events coming up prior to Davis's return will be the end of the Whittaker run, as well as a trio of specials culminating in what the BBC is describing as an epic blockbuster special that will air in the fall of 2022 as part of the broadcaster's centenary celebrations. So yeah, wonderful news for the Doctor Who fans out there. I am a Doctor Who observer, but not a participant for now. I'm very happy for people if they're happy for it, and sad for them if they're sad about it. I don't know. I don't know. I guess I'd have to get Corinne's opinion on this one. And then last but not least, we've got some deaths here to report. First of all, Basil Hoffman, an actor in such films as The Artist and Ordinary People, died at the age of 83. A acting career stretching over 200 credits. He was an auctioneer in The Artist. He appeared as Sloane in Ordinary People. He had roles in My Favorite Year, The Last Word, All the President's Men, and Rio, I Love You from 2014. He was also part of recurring roles in the 1980 series Hill Street Blues and Square Pegs. And looks like he worked with 14 different Oscar-winning actors throughout his entire career. He's a journeyman actor, big bucket of win. He shall be missed. And then another death within the world of the Mary Tyler Moore Show, and also one that does mean something to me. Jay Sandrich. He was one of the directors of the Mary Tyler Moore Show, and the he worked on a show starring that guy named Bill Cosby, and Soap. He has passed away at the age of 89. Jay Sandrich started off in Hollywood as a second assistant director on I Love Lucy, and then he started working on shows like Make Room for Daddy, which is the Dandy Thomas Show, the Dick Van Dyke Show. He directed the pilot episodes for the Bob Newhart Show, WKRP in Cincinnati, and Benson, and he produced for Andy Griffith and Get Smart. Now, his father, Mark Sandrich, was a key creative force that was brought over to Paramount to revitalize the Jack Benny brand starting in 1939. So Jay Sandrich followed in his father's footsteps in terms of working in show business. He won his first Emmy in 1971 for directing the first season installment. Toulourou Lautrec is one of my favorite artists, which is part of the Mary Tyler Moore Show. This is the one where Mary finds herself romantically attracted to a visiting author during a sit-down interview, only to discover that when he stands up, he is much shorter than she is. And then he won a second one for Mary Tyler Moore Show for It's Whether You Win or Lose. He had an intuitiveness when it came to directing comedy, which is arguably something that he acquired from his father, whether through witnessing it or just inherent talent. So at the age of 89, that's a big bucket of win right there, I'd say. So hats off to Jay Sandrich.
And Betty White scales the Mortal Kombat towers once again.
Is she ever gonna go? Not that I want her to, but I want
to see how far she can get at this point. Like who's left?
A gaffer on Mary Tyler Moore is still alive.
Yeah.
It's just insane. But working on Dick Van Dyke too. I Love Lucy. He had a big career. But the big news, big death, arguably, Melvin Van Peebles, one of the innovators of black cinema in this country, passed away at the age of 89. His landmark career includes such films as Watermelon Man and Sweet Sweetback's Badass Song. He is also the father of Melvin Van Peebles, Mario Van Peebles, actor who is still with us. This comes off of the news of his Criterion box set being released, The Essential Van Peebles, and also a Broadway revival of his play Ain't Supposed to Die a Natural Death is supposed to be coming next year.
Am I crazy, or is this happening quite frequently where Criterion will release like masterworks collection of somebody and then they die recently, like relatively close to it? Like I feel like this just happened.
This I'm trying to remember who this happened to recently. I can't remember. Shit.
Yeah, I have to go back and look through the Criterion releases. But yeah, I feel like a couple months ago the same thing happened.
Yeah,
because I saw that today. I was like, didn't Criterion just put out a box set of his stuff this week and he died? Like that's a bad omen.
Jeez, yeah. It's nuts. Van Peebles, though, started off his career. He was living in Paris, and he wrote and directed his first film, The Story of a 3-Day Pass, and it put him on the radar for Columbia Pictures, which led him to directing The Watermelon Man, a racial satire with Godfrey Cambridge, as Jeff Gerber, a bigoted white insurance salesman who goes to the bathroom in his suburban home in the middle of the night and discovers that he's black. On the strength of that movie's success, Columbia offered him a 3-picture deal, but wanted no part of his next project, which was Sweet Sweetback's Badass Song. So, helped by a $50,000 loan from Bill Cosby, he wrote and directed, produced, scored, and edited the Renegade film while starring as its anti-hero, a ladies' man whose superhero lovemaking abilities, who battles the corrupt white establishment in Los Angeles. Or a better way to put it, it's one of the key blaxploitation films and an essential watch. So this movie opened a floodgate of further blaxploitation films that would innovate and lead the way, whether that be Shaft or Coffee, Foxy Brown, etc. So Van Peebles was a true pioneer. I'm going to be picking up this box set, which we'll be talking about in Blu-rays. And I do think that it's very, very, it's very inspirational to look at his story and looking how he pioneered different elements of this on the lowest of scales at a time when African American filmmakers were an absolute minority, they barely existed. So for him to very much help innovate the blaxploitation genre is quite a feat, to say the least. So Melvin, you will be very, very missed. And that is news.
I forgot to mention last week that last week was my 100th consecutive episode.
Congratulations! Oh, wait! Breaking Real Nerds news. Brad has reached 100 consecutive episodes. Woo!
Last week. This week is 101.
Last week.
So.
Yes, last week. Brad, can the Real Nerds Podcast News get a quick quote on what it's like to have 100 consecutive episodes in a row?
Exhausting.
Do you think you'll retire and let a certain Scottish cap wearing gentleman take your throne again?
Definitely not going to let that happen by that person, but I'm definitely thanks to the team for letting me move the schedule around so I could achieve that, because with the 48 and everything the past couple of weeks it was definitely in jeopardy.
The show doesn't happen without you, Brad. So if we can help you accommodate a certain mile marker, we're going to do it.
Yeah. So from here on out, I can start missing shows again. I'm not that precious about it. It'd be nice to go to 200, but that might be insane. But I'm like 30 weeks or something ahead of the past leader, which was you. So it's going to take a monumental effort by the rest of you to catch up to that. So
yeah, how many did I have in a row?
I think you were at 70 or something. I can find out real quick. That was from 2017 to
2019,
2018,
something like that. Gotcha. That makes perfect sense.
Yeah, 71.
Okay, wow, 71. So
I blew past that by
30 episodes. Yeah.
As of right now.
Stupid me finding other things to do.
Yeah, well, yeah, that Real Nerds Take Manhattan with just Henry wrecked your run.
Yeah, well, that doesn't seem fair, because that
Yeah, but then you did miss Hellboy.
Yeah, so that's true. I did miss Hellboy. I believe I was out of town that day.
You would have added 20. Oh my God, 29. So if you hadn't missed Hellboy and stay in somehow was on that Manhattan episode, you would have 100 right now.
Dang. Oh well.
Well, I guess since then you've also missed a couple other weeks, but you would have had 100 you would have hit the 100 mark by 2019 for Shazam.
This isn't fair.
So yeah, definitely kick Henry in the nuts. when you see him next. And
I do that every time I see him. It's the way we greet each other.
And then punch yourself in the dick for missing Hellboy.
Punch myself in the dick for You know what? Given what I've heard about that film, I think I will gladly allow myself to be completely free of guilt on that one. So, but thank you for suggesting it.
Yeah, then you missed Good Boys, then Joker, and then Zombieland Double Tap.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
But
I'm only I think 7 weeks away from having the all-time. If Ryan continues to miss more episodes, I'm like 6 weeks away from taking the all-time appearances. So,
dang. Here's to you completely dominating this entire show in a Thanos fashion. You can snap half of us out of existence.
That is a weird feeling. Like Ryan should probably always hold that record, but I'm coming for him.
Yep.
Stop going to Portland.
You already snapped James away, and I'm assuming Henry as well. So,
yeah, Corinne's blown past Henry.
Yeah,
by like 15 or so, and I surpassed James a long time ago. But you're still quite a bit away from James, even. So.
Oh, really? He had a bunch more?
You're at 254 and he's holding at 319. So.
Oh, well.
About another year.
By next year, I will have that Detroit boy beat.
Yeah. You'll finally come in third place here.
Yeah, that's right. Third place I get a bronze medal, dude. I'm totally down for that. Anywho. Hey guys, we don't just talk about movie news. We also talk about the movies you can buy on Blu-ray, DVD, VHS, Betamax, 4K. This is DVDs and Blu-rays.
DVD releases and Blu-rays.
Jumping it off from our news segment, Criterion has put out Melvin Van Peebles, The Essential Films Blu-ray set. This includes such films as The Story of a 3-Day Pass, Watermelon Man, Sweet Sweetback's Badass Song, and Don't Play Us Cheap, along with Badass, the film starring Mario Van Peebles as his father. So you can pick that up via Criterion if you so wish. Arrow is putting out a 4K of Legend, the 1985 Ridley Scott joint featuring Tom Cruise. So if you need to complete your Tom Cruise collection like Ryan does, maybe he's going to upgrade that. I don't know. We'll see. If you know what, if he doesn't want to go that route, he can always go with Children of the Corn in 4K. The 1984 Stephen King adaptation is now available in a glorious 4K format for all of you. You know what's also in 4K? Orson Welles' last movie, Transformers, the movie from 1986, coming to you in 4K through Shout Factory. And additionally, Warner Archive has made the right decision. For they are putting out on Blu-ray at last 1935's A Night at the Opera, starring the Marx Brothers, Groucho, Chico, and Harpo. So this was post-Zeppo, folks. So if you want to pick up an HD copy of A Night at the Opera, go to Warner Archive and check that out today. If you get up enough of them, maybe they'll put out the rest of those things in Blu-ray, which would be nice. Resurrection is coming to you from Vinegar Syndrome. And this is a Christopher Lambert film from 1999. You can also pick up from Criterion The Damned, the Luchino Visconti film. We've also got Devil's Story from 1986 coming to you from Vinegar Syndrome. A lot of catalog titles, and guys, so settle up for this. But before that, I will point out that one of the new releases is The Forever Purge in 4K. The 2021 film that I don't know if anybody even bothered to go to. I really don't know what the reception of that was. Regardless, though, if you want to pick up the Forever Purge and complete your Purge trilogy or quadrilogy, whatever the heck it is, now is your chance. We've got The Fourth Victim coming to you from Severin, the 1971 horror slasher film. We've got Commando Ninja coming to you from ETR Media. I have no idea what this looks like, Brad, but this looks like a film that we'll need to dig into in terms of those cheesy action movies. We've got from Terror Vision, WNUF Halloween Special, a horror comedy with fake news and commercial sections This was filmed on old video cameras to make it look like a real VHS recording of a commercial television station's Halloween special from 1987. So that sounds kind of neat. Paramount is reissuing Clue the Movie on Blu-ray and digital. And we've got Primetime Panic. This is coming to you from Fun City Editions. I don't know what this is exactly, but this looks like a collection of films that span. It includes such films as Kid Candidate, Duck the Carbine High Massacre, Primetime, For Mad Men Only, and WNUF. So, I guess check that out. And let's see. You can get the 3 from Hell 4K in a new Steel book. The film from 2019, Rob Zombie's final outing in the Firefly trilogy. And I guess we'll just end it with Kino Lorber putting out The Hunter Will Get You, starring Jean-Paul Belmondo, who recently passed away. Le Appageneur is a freelance spy from the French secret agency. He's put on an investigation about Le Prenevre, a serial killer who employs young boys to help him robbing banks before killing them. So it's like a Black Hand gang, except he eliminates his lackeys. You feel free to check that out. And it looks like that's it for September Blu-rays. Every week, the Real Nerds see a main movie of the week, but we also watch other random shit in a segment that we call Random Shit. I mean, what we've been watching.
So, this is the stuff we've been watching.
Brad, what did you watch this week?
Almost nothing. I didn't see any. Well, I guess I went and rewatched the Suicide Squad in the theater because I think this is the last week it's going to be out here. So that was still fun. But I got a seat like second from the last row in the back. And as usual, 10 minutes before the movie starts,
God damn it,
a couple came in and looked around. They were like, all the other seats are open except for one, right? And me. And they were like, we'll sit right behind this guy. And so I got up and I moved to the front row. But what is with people? Like,
what old lady did you offend that she put a hex on you?
I know. How do I defeat this curse? Write in, let us know. How do you defeat a couples ruin your solo theater experience?
Jesus, this is like, dude, I feel bad for you every fucking time. I just don't understand it.
It's just baffling. Like, why? Like, they're the kind of people, like, you've seen them, like, previews are pretty much over and then they show up and they're just like, here's an empty theater, there's one dude, I'm gonna go sit right next to him with my partner. Just like, even if you're vaccinated, like, why
just leave Brad alone.
on a biology level, on a just common courtesy level, like this guy has to hear our whispering conversations. Like, he needs to hear them. They're so important.
Brad,
they're so fascinating.
Brad, every one of them has been involved in some sort of crime, so you're their alibi.
Yeah. Like, they looked in, like,
officer, I saw them. Sat next to me in the theater. Those fucking jerks.
They were like, we're going to sit in the row in front of him. And they're like, no, fuck that. Go behind him. Like, that's a big difference.
Oh my God.
Like, why not a completely different section?
Oh my God.
Yeah. I was like, okay, I think the rationale was like, if we sit behind him, we can look at our phones during the movie and he won't notice. But that light carries across the wall. So when I was down the second row, I knew you were checking your phone. So.
Yeah. I'm sorry, buddy.
But the Suicide Squad is fantastic, regardless of all that. So.
Right. Can't go wrong with a big screen Trump movie, you know?
And then the only third thing was Ted Lasso.
Woo!
10th episode of the season. Didn't get to talk about it because we did the film explosion and Corinne wasn't here last week, so I'm just going to go and talk about it. And the week we missed was like everything since the Christmas episode has been just fantastic. Like all the threads are coming together. All the episodes are super poignant. And this week there was a funeral, and we finally figure out in detail what's going on with Ted Lasso and his psychology. And there's 2 more episodes to go. And I didn't mind the beard episode, which is another one of those, added after the season order. So it was just kind of random, but I thought it was fun. I get it. It's cool to see that side character. I mean, he's the main character, but he's not like the focus of a lot of the storylines. And he got to have his own kind of wild one night, random, absurdist humor type thing going on. So, it's now there's like so much going on because this last episode introduced a new problem in the Roy Keeley relationship that we've assumed was kind of like not a thing going forward. And now there's like only 2 episodes left to resolve all these things. I'm just like, oh, great. Like, what's going to be there's got to be something that they're just going to like hold over for the next season, and we'll have to wait a year to deal with it. Mm-hmm. So, there's a lot going on. And definitely, if you're not watching Ted Lasso, you need to start watching Ted Lasso because it has gotten fantastic.
Wonderful.
The episode when we did the film explosion was just, I must have rewatched that one and the 2 leading up to it over and over again, like 5 or 6 times. It was so good.
Very cool.
Yeah. So, and obviously they won a bunch of Emmys last week. So congratulations to that.
Nice.
That's it for me, I think. I've been watching What If, but I keep falling asleep during them. So I have to constantly rewatch them.
Not exciting enough for you?
I guess not. Like, I mean, they're interesting, but I don't know if I'm like, there's an investment that's missing for me. That's like, they definitely feel like they're not integral to anything.
Is it because it's animated? Is that throwing you off, or?
Maybe. I mean, the animation's pretty good. So I don't think so. I think it's just a matter of like, this is an alternate universe. It has no bearing on, as far as I know. I mean, it could be. When it's all said and done, they might spring like surprise, like this is part of the overall picture.
The Watchers, an integral part of the MCU. Yeah.
And actually, the coolest thing I think is like, speaking to the animation, the backgrounds, like occasionally they'll have a silhouette of the Watcher watching what's going on, and that's haunting, and that's kind of cool. In like the Doctor Strange episode, he was actually part of the story where Strange was like, hey, undo this, I screwed up, and he's just like, no, peace out.
Wee.
Yeah, it's like, this is all your fault, and you're just one part of the multiverse. There's other places where this didn't happen, so it's not like it's that catastrophic. It's just catastrophic for you selfish piece of shit. So I'm out. So yeah, but yeah, I just keep starting to the next one, and then I wake up and realize like I totally missed the whole thing. So I'm slowly getting through What If, and it's cool. But yeah, like the Captain Britain one, I guess. It's cool, but I can't decide if it's trying to say like, women are no different from men, so the story doesn't change, and that's why the story isn't that different from Captain America movie, or if it's the other thing where it's like, it is like different because, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, like, I guess it's just like what's the, if you're not going to make it complete and utter canon, what's the value? But I mean, like, I appreciate that they attempt to tell the story. I haven't watched it, but I know that that's out there, and I'm like, that sounds like a cool thing to watch. But I do think like, yeah, in the grand scheme of like a live action like Lady Britain adaptation that we're not going to get. Like, it's kind of disappointing.
Yeah, it's like, is it detrimental or helpful to make that point? Is like I'm trying to understand, like, because it's so much like the movie, just animated, and it's just Haley Atwell instead of Chris Evans in the lead role. And like, is the point they're making that, you know, having a woman doesn't change the story, or is it, you know, inadvertently saying that like this story is boring because they didn't change it? You know,
you might be overthinking it, but at the same time,
definitely overthinking it. But I'm just like, is that an unintended consequence of what they did?
Possibly. I guess I'll need to watch Marvel's What If next before I do WandaVision and give you my thoughts on it.
Yeah. And then what were the other ones? Yeah, the Marvel Zombies is the one I'm stuck on. What was the other one? Oh yeah, that T'Challa is Star-Lord. Like, it was cool to see like some of the villains be heroes, but again, like, I don't know, it just wasn't that affecting of a story for me, I guess. So whatever. Gotcha. Anyway,
I feel like that What If might end up being I mean, like, I think the big value in that is hearing Chadwick Boseman's last performance. So
yeah, that's the big thing you get out of it. But at the same time, it shouldn't be. It should be like the focus should be on stories, right? So
right.
But it was cool. Again, it's just like none of this has any seemingly, to my knowledge, doesn't have any connection to like what I'm trying to enjoy with Shang-Chi and Loki and WandaVision. So, you know, it's just a separate thing. So just like with Bad Batch for Star Wars, like I started watching it because it seemed so essential. But then like after a bunch of episodes, I was like, this doesn't, you know, I guess people who watch Clone Wars, it's important to them, but I didn't watch Clone Wars. So I'm just like, you know, I don't see anything super innovative or interesting going on here.
Right. Well, I guess it's ultimately how far do you want to branch off outside of the main core story? Because like I held off on Marvel TV adaptations for a good long while until I realized like, oh, Kevin Feige wasn't bullshitting. Like, a lot of these are going to be integral to the MCU going forward. So, which I frankly don't appreciate, because if I've got to watch your 6-episode television show to understand a movie in a theater, then that I find that a little disingenuous, unless you're Richard Kelly, who's trying to do Southland Tales in that respect years before. Which, by the way, why don't you just give a MCU movie to Richard Kelly? You know, like that seems like a great idea. But yeah, so I find it like I'm glad I ended up going to Falcon Winter Soldier because I got a lot of value out of it, and I really appreciated Loki, even though like a couple weeks removed from Loki, it didn't leave an impression on me the way Falcon Winter Soldier did. But I think getting to dissect Loki was a worthy endeavor. If it weren't for the fact that I know that I mean, it's almost like I kind of wish it didn't have any bearing on the MCU overall. Like, it was just its own thing. But I guess there's not really much you can do to fix that. So I'm curious about WandaVision, though, because I know that has a lot of multiverse implications from what I heard. So I'll be very curious to see how that plays out. But yeah,
that's it for me.
Right on. Well, I didn't watch too much. I rewatched Labyrinth, and movie's a lot better than I remember. I always appreciated it from the technical acumen, and I'm a Jim Hensonite, but Labyrinth and Dark Crystal were two Jim Henson properties that I didn't really go back to because I'm just obsessed with Muppets, really, at the end of the day. But going back to it, it's a lot of fun. David Bowie's very good, charismatic as the Goblin King, and Jennifer Connelly's really great in it. I guess one of my big things was just appreciating the visual landscape that Henson creates. And, whether it's this or the Muppets, like Henson was one of those unsung directors who knew how to absolutely envelop you into whatever world he was brandishing. And just the way he shoots his films, there's never really an instance where I'm thinking that this isn't real. I think my brain's just allowed itself to tune into like, this is the reality. There's no reason to suggest that any of these creatures are fake, because your imagination is ultimately grasping onto you that tightly. So in that respect, I really, really did enjoy it. Not my favorite Henson thing, but I was very happy to watch it again and to experience it again. I continued down some more Disney binge. I watched a movie called Victory Through Air Power, which is a World War II oddity from the Disney canon. It's an hour and 9 minutes with an introduction by Leonard Maltin on the Walt Disney Treasures DVD. And I'd seen it before in high school, but I wasn't really paying attention to it. It was not as interesting as the propaganda cartoons to me. But the movie is there was a major in World War during the era of World War II who was very much advocating for air power as our solution to winning the war. And the movie plays out as a salute to the idea of an air force. And specifically, the goal of the film is to propose Major Stravinsky, I believe his name is his theories on how the war can be won only through long-range bombers and systematic attacks. Like, basically, he's advocating, like, this is the only way to win World War II. It's not going to be through ground troop. Like, ground troop can only do so much. Long-range bombers will be the solution to it. And Disney believed enough in this theory that he created this film, and when RKO wouldn't distribute it, he took it over to United Artists, and the film did poorly, but it was very well respected by a lot of heads of state, including Winston Churchill. The movie itself is like, it's a very interesting piece of propaganda that I don't get to see that often, where it's like, in the middle of war, trying to figure out solutions to the overall conflict. I mean, we have the hindsight of knowing how World War II ended because of both history and just the fact that the atomic bomb was being developed in secret. But even if we didn't have the bomb, I almost had to put myself in the position of just like, all right, let's just assume we don't have the Manhattan Project going around, and would this theory work? And it's a compelling argument. I'm not a military strategist, so I have no idea how any of this holds water by comparison. Like, it's weird. It's almost just like, it's a really cool, like, theoretical scenario for history buffs. But outside of that, it doesn't really have, like, it's not like I'm going to tell you, Brad, you need to watch Victory Through Air Power to understand the military. It's like, no, like, this is just a curio. But a very well produced curio nonetheless. So, like, some very interesting animation going on in it. And then I rewatched Fantasia, which has been a nice thing to sit back to and just watch while I unwind. Like, I don't have to worry about plot. I don't have to really worry about, even if my eyes were to dip, I'd still be appreciating the music coming over in stereophonic sound. The movie's amazing. Like, the more I watch that movie, the more it goes into my top 5 of Disney films of all time. Like, it's getting closer to hitting that top 5, which is very hard to hit because I've got a lot of fun favorites in there. But just the animation is gorgeous. I have segments that I prefer over others, but each one of them has value. I think the Pastoral Symphony by Beethoven is the only segment where I'm just like, I think this goes on a little too long, but it's not like I'd ask, and I wouldn't ask anything to be removed or changed. And it is a 2-hour movie that breezes by pretty quick. Like, I think as a kid, it's harder to appreciate it and sit with it because there's no dialogue and it's gag driven, but there's not a lot of, like, the gags are working in conjunction with the music, so it's not the same as a regular Disney cartoon. So I mean, it's a movie that if people haven't watched it in full since music class or wherever you watched it for the first time, it's something that I would definitely try to kick on in Disney Plus and just relax to. And it's a movie that I wish I had seen in a theater, and I would love for them to reissue it. And I was having memories of Fantasia 2000 amidst all this, and remembering that, like, oh yeah, my parents took me to see that twice when it came to IMAX here in Colorado. And I was having very strong memories of sitting in the theater watching it. So I popped on Fantasia 2000 the same night that I watched Fantasia, and that movie holds up better than I thought it would. Because my biggest worry was I remembered there being a lot of attempts at CGI going on throughout Fantasia 2000, and I misremembered it. It's a lot of 2D, 3D blend. So they're kind of going into 2.5D mode in certain respects. Like, so certain sections will be an attempt at early CGI that's not Pixar related, but it's blending into regular 2D animation. So like, I'm trying to think of a good comparison that you might remember, Brad, of like what was coming out at that time. Like, do you remember the dinosaurs movie that came out?
Yeah.
It's almost like it's not trying to go for photorealism, so it's stepping itself back. And so like there's like the Pines of Rome segment with the whales. There are certain parts of it that look off, but there are other moments in it that blend so amazingly that you almost forget the parts that don't work. The Steadfast Tin Soldier one worked way better than I remembered it working. It's still a little blocky by comparison to today, obviously, but watching the attempt at it, where it's very much trying to keep itself firmly rooted in a 2D concept, and a hand-drawn concept nonetheless, is very, nevertheless, is very admirable. The Noah's Ark segment with Pomp and Circumstance is very well animated. And Carnival of Animals with the flamingo getting the yo-yo is still very, very wonderful to watch. And I love that they still continued the tradition of starting off with an abstract piece. So like Beethoven's Fifth Symphony is a huge abstract concept. The only thing with Fantasia 2000 that I was left unsure of, I still love the piece, but I think I'm unsure of how I feel about it by comparison to Fantasia, is the Firebird Suite by Stravinsky, where they have the woman who is representing nature fighting off the Firebird, and then it's about renewal, just like the phoenix rising from the ashes. And for some reason, it resembles too much of the optimistic 90s era of Disney for me, that it doesn't have the same effect as watching Night on Bald Mountain and then Ave Maria on the very tail end of it. And it's probably unfair to compare the two, but it just, for me, like rewatching the Ave Maria segment was like affecting and a brilliant way to end Fantasia. So the Firebird one was a little bit like, all right, this is very nice, but it's not the same. It doesn't pack the same punch. But for both of them, if the concept is to stay firmly rooted in a concert feature and to really expose people to classical music, both of them do their jobs beautifully. My biggest complaint with Fantasia 2000, honestly, is that it's too short. It's only 71 minutes. You could easily stick another 30 to 40 minutes in that movie, and I would eat it up. So, yeah, both are on Disney Plus if you want to check it out. I rewatched Christopher Robin from 2018, which worked way better for me than even the first time. Just watching how that film is not attempting to be too overtly over serious or over obsessed with its sincerity. Like it is a kind, sweet family film with a wonderful handle on the Winnie the Pooh material, not just from the Disney aspect of it, but also the concepts that A.A. Milne developed in those characters. I think that the one thing that may not have hold up for me completely is Christopher Robin's like traumatic impact through war. It feels like it's kind of like just a dropped storyline, because the bigger one is that he's just too busy with work and he's not paying attention to his family. But I love the idea of Christopher Robin losing his sense of childhood wonder because of war, but it just doesn't like it's not a thread they hold on to as great, but it's still a wonderful majesty filled film. So if you haven't seen Christopher Robin from 2018, check it out. It's still fantastic. So yeah, and the last thing I watched this week was I started a series on Prime. Oh well, it's through BritBox, called Red Dwarf, which was recommended to me by my pal Smokey, who does All the Best Lines, Rated H, and How's a Hammer. And he'd been pitching the show to me for a while, and I was like, all right, fine, I'll sit down and check this show out. And I did not fully realize the fandom for this show, because the moment I started announcing that I was watching it, I had everybody coming out of the woodwork going like, oh my God. And they have every right to be joyful about it. Have you ever watched the show, Brad?
I know of it, but yeah, I've never got around to it. It was usually on PBS, after Mr. Bean or something.
Yeah, I think you'd enjoy this show a lot, Brad. Started in 1988, 1989. Follows the adventures of the Red Dwarf mining vessel. Our key characters are Lister, who's kind of like a slacker on the ship. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, I heard a groan, so I didn't know if you...
Oh, no, I was moving.
I full disclosure, folks, we've been experiencing outages. But yeah, no, so it follows Lister, who's kind of like a slacker on the technical end of the crew. And you've got Rimmer, who's just a level above him, but is just as equally inept. There's a radiation leak that happens throughout the ship. And if I'm getting the technical jargon of what happens on the ship wrong, guys, I'm still a newbie on the show. Please be gentle with me. Lister was put into suspension because he refused to hand over a cat that he was hiding in the ship. And so he wakes up at 3 million years in the future, where the only inhabitants left on the ship are the computer, Holly, a hologram of Rimmer, who died in the initial disaster, and his cat, who he refused to give up and had hidden in the vents, had evolved over 3 million years into an actual person. And so it's just about their adventures trying to basically get the Red Dwarf home back to Earth. It's very funny, considering that you have this concept of basically only one technical person, an evolved cat, and a hologram living on a ship together. It just blends into this lovely absurdist humor that I enjoyed so much. There's singing toasters. There's, there's an episode in this first series where, they deal with events happening seconds in the future. So they get to play with time travel, and it's very brilliant how they handle it. They have like elements of Lister's personality split off into confidence and paranoia. Like it's dealing with some abstract concepts that I really enjoy. So I'm hooked, and I'm thankful that I kept my BritBox subscription after going back through the Jeremy Brett Sherlock Holmes, because not only can I go back to that, but I can start enjoying more of this Red Dwarf. So yeah, if anybody has never checked out Red Dwarf, follow along on the journey with me. It'll be a lot of fun, guys. We can hang out on the vessel together. So yeah, and that's all I've been watching this week. This week on Real Nerds Podcast, we saw Prisoners of the Ghostland. Brad, should people watch Prisoners of the Ghostland?
I hope this doesn't drop out again while we're talking. Prisoners of the Ghostland. I feel like I'm not in on the joke. It was one of the few movies that I thought about actually just leaving in the middle of, because I was so put off by, I didn't understand what was going on, if it was supposed to be funny, if it was supposed to be like, a lot of the times I thought it was just like these filmmakers got together for the weekend and just didn't have a script and just made it up as they went. The best thing I can say about it is that the production design and costumes were fantastic. Definitely a lot of effort went into that. Like visually, it's really impressive. Some of the photography is great. I just don't know what I was supposed to get out of this.
Fair enough. I am going to recommend it. This is a bonkers gonzo Western / horror movie that I just dug into the vibe of it. Kind of reminded me of like a Grindhouse movie might be, but also like it. I know that there's a basis for this, and I'm not as versed on this, but like these bigger supernatural films from Japan pre the 90s and whatnot that like have a prominent ghost element where the ghosts can look rather silly or bizarre. I think that there's a lot of elements to me that actually remind me of Mad Max that I appreciated, where a language is being created out of its own whole cloth. It's not perfect, but I think that it's absolutely worth your time to sit down with it and kind of embrace the madness. And I'm always an advocate of that. It was fun watching Nicolas Cage do some funny stuff, while also, playing his own version of a kind of a neo-Western hero. And I like watching Bill Moseley in anything. So I was down to watch him ham it up. And out of the Nicolas Cage movies we've seen this year, Pig is still the best. But for me, this movie is 10 times better than Willy's Wonderland. So,
wow.
Yeah, for that, I will absolutely recommend it. Here's the trailer for, oh wait, no, before we do that, Brad, I believe our absent host, Ryan, had a thought or two on Prisoners of Ghostland. Should we hear what he had to say?
Hello, my fellow nerds. This is your host, your talent, Ryan. And I'm sorry I missed this week's episode. I am in the Great Northwest traveling for work. However, I could not let this go by without talking to you about what the fuck I just saw, which is Prisoners of the Ghostland, which stars Nicolas Cage. This movie is loud, obnoxious, incoherent, and doesn't make any sense. I only gave it 1 star. And the reason I gave it 1 star is there's a moment in it where Nicolas Cage gets this outfit that has bombs attached to it. And if he does certain things with his body parts, the bombs will be activated. During one part, he gets aroused when this girl he's saving is drinking water, which makes a bomb blow up in his testicle. I think it's his left one. And his left testicle blows up. He holds up his left testicle and passes out. And then later, he's explaining to the prisoners of Ghostland that he has 1 testicle! And he does that in a way that just makes the movie get 1 star. Because without that one moment, I would not give this movie any stars. It's not very good. It makes no sense. And it's not even saved by some, like, over-the-top gore and some action scenes. It's just a fucking mess. And I'm really glad that my Alamo season pass kicked back in. And even more glad that my first month is free. So technically, I only paid $1.30 for this movie for the convenience fee of using my Alamo pass. So, yeah, I give Prisoners of Ghostland 1 blown-off Nick Cage testicle. I'll see you guys next week for Venom, Let There Be Carnage. Thanks, guys. Bye.
You're fucking wrong, Ryan. You're fucking wrong.
I think I might be with you, Ryan. I don't know what you said yet, but I saw your 1-star review is similar to mine on Letterboxd, and it's I like you said, it very much, like I said, there's like I feel like this is a Mad Max movie. It's doing the same things, but I'm not interested in anything the characters are saying. I'm not interested in the arcs of the characters. Like, I don't know I feel like I'm missing something, and because it looks like an expensive as hell movie, and you don't get to make expensive as hell movies just for making it up on the spot. So,
gotcha. Well, before we get any further, why don't we play the trailer?
My granddaughter has been lost to us. I would have her return to me post haste. And you, sir, I am told, are the man to do the job. Each arm is equipped with an explosive device. Your trousers are also equipped with explosives.
Really?
Just beyond the point where we now stand lies a highway where evil reigns.
What is this?
At the end of 5 days, if you have not returned with Bernice, well, I think you get the idea, son. Godspeed.
This is the Ghostland, a land of no escape. We are not the ones who hold her captive. It's been 2 days, and still she is missing.
How do I get out of here?
You must surrender to fate.
Radioactive.
No one escapes the Ghostland. No one!
I'm not a prisoner!
So it just, for you, it felt like it wasn't going, it wasn't allowing you to be further invested.
Yeah, I was like, I just didn't know what to care about this movie. Like what I was supposed to, it wasn't so funny that it was absurd, but it wasn't absurd funny. So I was like, okay, I'm not like, there's no comedy element that I'm enjoying. Like, sure, Nicolas Cage rattles off some weird one-liners, but like overall, like it seems to have no bearing on like the plot. Like I don't know. Like I guess there was, the budget is still kind of low, so they sacrifice, like there's these two towns, but you don't really know how far apart they are. You never really see any traveling done, probably because they're built right next to each other, and the rat man character, I feel like his whole staged area is just where the crew keeps all the filmmaking equipment in those trucks, and they just repurpose them and threw some LEDs on them. I got a very DIY vibe of, we have a location, we have an awesome costume guy, we have an awesome costume person, we have an awesome props person. I think we're using the burned out clock tower from the Universal lot from the fire. Like maybe that's, but at the end did say it was in New York. So like we have a location, and we signed Nicolas Cage and Sofia Boutella. For some reason they're involved, but like they have the weekend. So let's just get everything all pieced together, and we'll get to make the coolest movie ever, where, we'll have ninjas in it, and we'll have samurai and Western and Japanese culture in it, and it'll just be this melting pot of all these different things. We've got a dope DP. It'll look great. And here we are. Nick, say something, just like the coolest thing you can think of right now. Blood packet guy, activate the splatter.
I mean, so I'm not familiar with the director, Sion Sono.
Yeah, never heard of them before.
But reading some stuff afterwards, it's clear that he has a following, and it seems like he is a little bit more known for these eclectic and idiosyncratic kind of movies. So it's not like, it's almost like it's not like this is unexpected by any state. I mean, like I feel like it was cool to be let in on this kind of new world, and that's what I kind of dug about it. I think that the attempt to create a Mad Max-esque language of its own might be a little too ambitious, but I don't even know if that's what it's going for. It almost feels like it wants to be its own thing, and to hell with establishing anything further in its universe. In terms of it telling a very simple story, like so the plot for people who have just heard us kind of like debating its merits. Nicolas Cage plays a guy who robbed a bank with his partner, but his partner killed a bunch of people, amongst which was a kid who was at a gumball machine. And so he's captured by the governor, played by Bill Moseley, who one of his granddaughters, quote unquote, has run away, and he is tasked with bringing her back. And he's put into kind of an escape from New York kind of contingency plan where he wears a suit that has explosives all around it. It has it on his neck, it has it on his wrists, and it has it on his testicles. So basically, if he tries to strike the woman in any way or try to get it on with the woman in any way, he'll experience an explosion. And he has a timer on the wrist, which, you know, he gets 3 to 5 days to return her back. It's slowly revealed throughout this plot that Sophia Botella's character, the granddaughter, she was part of a collection of sex slaves for the governor, who he again is calling his granddaughters. And so the whole concept ends becoming about going back there, but then standing up against the governor. And
it's a little like Fury Road without the war rig.
Yeah, that's the thing that one of the things where I started tapping into its vibe. It's just like, man, it's like it's a low budget version of Fury Road, which is kind of neat to watch.
Yeah,
and
again, a little Thunderdome with the whole town of like,
yeah, like the Ghostland. Yeah, it's you mentioned the production design earlier, Brad. That's one of the reasons why I think it got sunk into me, was just like, oh my god, it's an actual world and it's not really built on a fucking CG land. That's fucking neat. Which I like CGI, but like when you can see a tangible world, like it will nowadays capture my heart. So
yeah, it was amazing. Like that was the best part of it. I was just watching like the amount of detail, all the signage and all the space that they like that, and the explosives for the clock tower and everything. Like they put it, and then the rat man's whole setup, his salvage yard. Like, even though it looks like it's the crew's equipment, it's like they still built everything around it to like make it feel like it's its own living world. The only bad side is like I said, there's no sense of distance between the two areas. Like the Ghostland is a cutaway.
The scale is very limiting.
Yeah. So you don't get a sense that it's not just they're all in the same. Like if you turn the camera to the left, like 45 degrees, you'll see the rest of the set.
Yeah, exactly. That is like a slight detriment, but like when you consider that this is probably being done on a lower scale budget by comparison, the fact that they put as much on the screen as they could within that concept is pretty fantastic.
It looks like their entire budget is the production design. Like that's the most expensive looking part of the movie is the world built around it. Like second, maybe like Nicolas Cage's fee, I guess.
Yeah. It's, what's funny also is I think that like we were talking about Fury Road, and the one thing that this film doesn't have that Fury Road has is an actual sense of commentary within the broader themes it's discussing with corruption and, and female empowerment. But I don't think that the movie's goal is to do that pitch perfect. It's almost like it's almost feels like it's window dressing for this bizarro land that isn't coming out of an established franchise or IP. So it's like, in a sense, it was interesting to watch somebody attempt to just build something out of whole cloth and not worry about expectation.
Yeah, I don't think this movie has anything to say. I feel like it just reads like, here's an amalgamation of all the cool stuff we like from cinema. Here's our own version, and thanks for watching. Go home. Narratively, I just like nothing was interesting about it. Like you said, it's just the Fury Road. What's his name?
Escape from New York
put together, and then
you've got an element of horror banding about there.
What's the villain from Fury Road's name? Morton Joe.
Morton Joe. Yeah, Witness Me. Yeah.
Yeah, like Morton Joe is the governor, and his whole plot with his slaves, it's just like, so Nicolas Cage brings her back and like just
The governor's downfall, by the way, is one of my weaker points in the film. Is just like, because they do a pretty good job at establishing his corruption and whatnot, but like the way his whole empire dismantles itself is not clear in the editing. Like,
it's really funny when all of his concubines you're like, oh, you don't have any money anymore, so we're just leaving you, and he's just like left helpless. Like, that was funny.
It was funny, but I had the question of just like, at what point did his value deteriorate? What was the monetary structure here that all of a sudden it's collapsed? Was it when one of his concubines like fucking like unloaded that rotary machine gun? Like I wasn't fully aware of that. It didn't like detriment the movie for me, but I was just like, it's a kind of a weird like cutaway. I guess in the grander scheme of things, it's just everything's collapsing. So.
Yeah, like the whole Ghostland is a collapsed society. Like, there's a nuclear explosion, and people are just living however they can. But apparently, the governor's Japanese themed society or whatever has succeeded, and then the people in the wasteland part of for some reason they can't walk across. Like, are they infected with like radiation, or like they can't walk through it? It was really weird when like Nicolas Cage finally convinces everyone to go take down the governor, and then he's like interrupted by his buddy who got him captured in the first place and was like on the prison bus that got radiated in the explosion, stops him, and then like all those townspeople just still hung back anyway.
I think they were alluding to like that might be the fear that keeping them back, but they're very ambiguous about the whole Ghostland and what is actually inhabiting them, because like when he finds Sophia Boutella when he arrives at the Ghostland, like she's been paper mached or like fucking like plastered up
weird
into these weird encasings which are representative of her trauma. But I'm just like, yeah, but this is like,
and she doesn't want to leave. Yeah,
well, her not wanting to leave makes sense if you're being traumatized by this weird fucking like sex slave master and whatnot. But like, there's like, it's almost too ambiguous for what it's trying to do. Like it needs to clarify itself a little bit better.
Which is weird because it felt like this movie felt totally padded. Like they just drew stuff out because they're running short on the runtime, but they still have long expositional sequences explaining how the world works, and it like went over my head. Like I couldn't understand.
I think part of that has to do with the dialogue and attempting to create its own Mad Max-esque kind of language, and in the process, it just doesn't know how to. I'll be honest. I think the script is the biggest issue. It's not for me. It's not the direction. It's the script. Like the script has no real clarification.
Like I said, I felt like they just made it up the whole movie, like on the spot. Like, but that can't be true because I can't imagine anyone like shelling out this kind of money for a movie that has no script. You know?
I mean, unless it's something that Siono
self-financed, maybe.
No. Did you see how many fucking production companies were attached to this thing?
Oh, I forgot about that. Yeah, the whole Family Guy gag of like, I think people started laughing in my theater. Like when the 6th or 7th company logo came up, it's like,
well, and one of them is a known company, XYZ. So, and then you also had RLJE Entertainment putting it out. So like, and I don't know what the hell Patriot Pictures is, but that's an interesting logo. So yeah, I don't know. Like, I still recommend it to people. But as we've talked about, there are issues with the film, but I think like, I want to know what Henry thinks, to be honest. I almost wish we had reached out to him and been like, dude, like get on fucking mic and explain this to us, because we may not be fully understanding it. But I'm one of the movie's advocates here. I would recommend people check it out. It certainly has balls on it, and I appreciate its gumption. But it's like,
yeah, if you're looking for something super weird and like baffling, like if that's what you're into, then sure, I'd recommend it. But if you're someone who just like wants to enjoy a movie, like I said, I didn't want to stay through the whole thing. Like, I seriously considered, like, do I need to be here for the end? Because I don't see, like, I don't know what I'm investing my time in. Like, I don't care about any of these people. There's no interesting action sequences, or, the cinematography is great, but it's not like so visually, like Wes Anderson visually, like inspiring, like on a on a low key level that like I need to stay around. So I was just like,
right.
What am I supposed to get out of this? I don't know. And clearly some people are getting something out of it, but I don't know what it is. So I want to know Henry's take on it. Like, did he see something that I didn't? If it's just like, here's a director who managed to put all these pieces together, and like if it's just that, like I said, if there is no script and you just put this together on the fly, like that is kind of impressive to me. Because this is definitely looked like a movie that has money behind it. Like we said, it has all those logos. I like it, the in a 48-hour filmmaking kind of way. I would like to, if that's something that happened, like that is kind of cool. But I don't see that on the screen.
I think, and again, like, but you hit on this concept of it, which I appreciate. Is it's like, if that ends up being the case, it does make this even more masterful. But I think more than likely, like, one of my things is, again, the script is weak, but I think that the direction saves the movie and makes it worth examining. But it's like one of those, like, but I would understand for some people how that would be like a weak argument. But again, like, the movie doesn't really give you much leeway to find a middle ground. You're either going to love it or you're going to hate it. Like, this isn't a middle ground movie to my mind. Cause I think it's not trying to acquiesce to any particular audience. It's either going to get it or you're not going to get it, which I don't necessarily look at that in the realm of a joke, like you alluded to. But I do think that I agree with the idea and theory of just like, well, this is like it's almost like insider baseball or something to that degree of just like, you're either going to get it or you're not. But, regardless, I do think people should still check it out. I mean, I don't think it's worthless. I don't think it's dumb. I think it's so ambitious that that ambition overwhelms the project as a whole, but that doesn't mean that it's not worth getting a glance at. Especially, and again, we were talking about Nicolas Cage in it, but like, he's the one. There's the weak part within Cage is that we've seen this mode out of him so much that in a world where I've seen Pig, it's really just like, guys, we need to like stop pigeonholing this man. And somebody out there needs to find a script as strong as Pig to give to him and go kick him off further. Cause like, I'm not going to lie, Brad, Willy's Wonderland, like the more I think about that movie, the more I'm like, I do not like this movie at all. Cause like, you had a concept there to give him some dialogue and to like actually make that a fun experience. And instead you made choices that I appreciate that you made the choices, but it just doesn't work for me. So like watching this, I was like, oh, at least I got the Nicolas Cage mode I might have expected. But again, in a world where we have Pig, like, it's tough to watch Nicolas Cage now without going like, man, you're so fucking good. Like, we need to get you back into I don't know if we need to put you in a higher echelon necessarily, like, cause you like doing these genre pictures, like where there's not an expectation hanging over your head, like there's a franchise, but man, like you deserve better material,
Yeah. I mean, like, I enjoyed Willy's Wonderland better, but it's definitely not going to end up in my top 10 for the year. But at least that movie, I understood like where we were trying to go with the story and the characters. This one is just like,
oh yeah. Willy's Wonderland is very clear on its vision, so that's definitely it definitely has that in its corner.
Yeah, this one, like, other than recognizing that it's part Fury Road, part Escape from New York, like, there was just nothing else to it to me. Yeah, I've read like there's that, I guess the brother, like, I think it's Sofia Boutel's brother is like a samurai who works for the governor, like he owes him. So,
oh no, it's not her brother. It's the brother of another concubine or not concubine, slave. Yeah.
Like, he has probably the most interesting story, I guess, of the bunch, but and like Nicolas Cage's character robbed that bank and tried to save everyone from his partner, but there's no, like, I don't know, like, I just didn't understand how he felt remorse for all that. Like at a certain point he turns, but it's just like, it's almost like he fell in the dirt and woke up and he's like, okay, I had a bad dream and I understand like what I did was wrong.
Well, and part of it is also he understands that the ghosts aren't there to haunt him. They're here to rescue him. But like, again, the concepts are so vague that I didn't even look at the runtime on the movie, but like, it felt like we could have had a little bit more even. Cause like even at 103 minutes, you're still needing to fully explain this world. And I'm like, I need a little bit more here.
And we spent it like that whole governor explaining when the governor explains basically the plot of Escape from New York to Nicolas Cage, like I was sitting there going like, with the audience is way ahead of you, man. Like we know like what the suit and everything is going to do. Like just get out of here. But it's Bill Moseley, right?
Yeah, it's Bill Moseley. And like, it's almost like the director was just like, I don't want to cut any more of Bill than I have to because he's so magnetic.
Just lean into this, like chew as much as possible. Like I'm not knocking Bill Moseley. I kind of feel like he was instructed to draw this out. But I was just like, that whole scene, I was just like, you're wasting a lot of valuable time in this movie, like explaining a plot that I'm pretty sure everyone in this audience is way ahead of you on.
Yeah, but there's also an element of it from an exploitation realm where I'm just like, they'll give a bigger an actor heavy moments and give them a chance to shine. Where I'm just like, I'm into this mode where I can play along here. I agree that it's overdrawn, but maybe because I can be predisposed to this element of film, like I'm not finding it to be a huge detriment. Other than the fact that the script that follows is so devoid of clarification or trying to flesh things out, even if it's through visuals. You don't need to do it through dialogue beyond that. You can imply things further, but like certain moments felt like they were trying to too quickly get to the finale, but then delay it, and then try to go quickly to the finale, but then delay it again. And I'm like, I think you need to find a better balance, I think is the problem. And again, we're talking about the script really. Like the direction and the actors, they're all doing the job they need to do and they're doing it in spades, but the script is just very devoid of a necessary element to kick it into a stratosphere beyond its supposed B-level roots,
Yeah, and all the actors are committed. Like there was no one who was like, I felt like was just there to be there. Like everyone leaned into all their characters, even like the extras.
Oh yeah, everybody wanted
there having
to be
fun.
There. Yeah.
I just don't know what end.
Maybe it's a film that'll get better with you with time. Who knows? But
I'm not watching it again.
I will. I'll pick it up on Blu-ray. But anyway, so Brad, what are we seeing next week?
I think it's Venom, right? Oh, Corinne has a Catch in the Classics.
Oh, should we play some Catch in the Classics with Corinne before we go? I think Corinne needs to get on here.
Hey nerds, Corinne here for part 39 of Catching the Classics, where I watch famous and popular movies I've never seen before and send in my review. This week, I watched Tim Burton's Edward Scissorhands. Yeah, it was okay. I wasn't blown away by it. I like the first half better, where, he's getting introduced to the society. But then the second half, I'm like, I guess I just don't know where this is going and what the conflict is, other than he loves her and she's dating this other guy. And, but yeah, I like the whole sequence, or just the idea that, he comes from this world of black, white, and gray, and, everything is colorless in the castle on the hill. And then he goes to the suburbs, and everything is super colorful, these bright, Easter colors. And even the fact that his adoptive mom is a makeup saleswoman, and so she literally sells people color. It's that's perfect. But yeah, after that, I was like, I don't know where this is going. And damn, that ending, super grim. I know the spoilers if you've never seen Edward Scissorhands, but I know the teenager was being a giant dick, but damn, Edward just stabbed him and then kind of pushed him back and so he fell to his death. And I'm like, look, he was being an asshole. I'm not saying he wasn't, but he was also still a kid. Like, he was 18 or 17. Like, he was still in high school. And then Edward just was like, nah, kill you. Don't drink and drive, kids. That's the moral of the story. Don't drink, period. Don't be doing anything stupid. Oh, man. Yeah. Of course, me being the pedantic asshole that I am, I see him, like, doing the whole, like, ice carving thing, and how it goes from solid ice to these, like, flakes of beautiful snow, and it's probably fake snow anyway, but it was like, I don't think you understand how ice works. And also, you know, there at the very end of the movie, when he's, like, carving the ice up at the castle on the hill, it's like, where did he get that ice from? I thought everybody thought he was dead. I'm confused. It was great to see Vincent Price again. I didn't realize he was in the movie until I saw the opening credits. I guess this was, like, what, his last or second to last role before he died. Yeah, Johnny Depp did a great job. This was clearly before he went, like, super weird. Thought it was actually pretty reined in for him. You know, he doesn't talk very much. Edward doesn't talk very much. Winona Ryder, she did okay. I forget who plays the mom, but I thought she did a great job. And, man, some of those haircuts, I'm like, y'all just don't have any kind of style or anything. Also, what era was the movie supposed to be in? Because sometimes it looked like more 70s, and then sometimes it looked more 50s, just based on, like, the props and everything. I guess it's supposed to be this kind of, you know, idyllic little suburb or whatever, but I guess I was feeling more like 70s. But anywho, I wasn't, like, super impressed with it. Glad I got to see it at least once, but I don't anticipate going back to it anytime soon. So I would probably give it, like, 3 stars. So I don't know what I'm watching next time or when that will be, but keep an ear out, because part 40 I'll have to pick something hella cool. I was wanting to do Superbad this time, but apparently it's not on Hulu anymore, so I had to improvise. So hope you all are doing okay, nerds and everybody at home, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye!
Well, Corinne, whatever you talked about, we loved it. We absolutely enjoyed it to the ends of the earth. I particularly liked the part where you explained that actor's history and talked about what your history with it was, and then found a way to connect it to Ted Lasso.
Wait, it just came in. She watched Halloween and hated it. So,
thanks, Corinne. I don't agree with
you. But yeah, next week we're watching Venom, right? I think that's the release, because No Time to Die is the week after that. Yeah, I'd be shocked if they kept that in the sequel.
What if he did another song?
Yeah. Again, I'd be surprised.
All right, so it's Venom, and then after that it's No Time to Die.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then
we're in for a run of
blockbusters,
some of the best stuff. So yeah, Halloween Kills After James Bond, Dune, French Dispatch, Last Night in Soho, Eternals, Ghostbusters Afterlife are all on deck. So
yeah, exactly. We all know that Halloween Kills is going to be the number one of that group, but you know, just French Dispatch, I guess, number 1, Halloween Kills number 2, No Time to Die number 3.
Oh, I should also say that the one great part about Prisoners of Ghostland is they had a French Dispatch trailer animated by Wes Anderson ahead of it. So
it was awesome. I think it's the opening credits sequence. Because they had all the actors' names in it.
I mean, I think it's still a trailer. I can't imagine that being the opening of the movie, but maybe. I don't know. Wes Anderson, that's what he wants.
Place your bets. Yeah, no, it was very exciting. The person I went with, she got very excited. So, you know, like, it's, I think it's going to be a fun season at the movies, my friend.
And I think after all that, we'll have our Film Explosion 2011. So get those lists together.
Yeah. I actually I think I still can dig up my 2011 list from the year itself, which I ended up doing a top 15. We'll see what ended up getting booted out of that list. I know one title in particular that's not going to make it back on the list. So,
yeah, this will be our first, we'll be rebooting Film Explosion because we're going back to the very first one and finding out 10 years later if our opinions have changed or not. So stay tuned for that.
We had 99. We had Film Explosion 99.
But that wasn't the first one we ever did.
That's not the first like in year one. Gotcha. Yeah.
The first time we conceived of Film Explosions was 2011. So we're going back to the very original list. And I mean, I guess we were doing Film Explosions, but they weren't branded as that back on Nedcast 2 years before that. But this is the first official Film Explosion ever is 2011, and we're redoing it.
Yeah, it's like some people consider the KTMI seasons of MST3K to not fully be like the full birth or whatever. I don't know. I don't even know if that's how Mystery Science Theater fans see it, because I like the KTMI stuff. So
yeah, I can't imagine anyone excluding any Mystery Science Theater from the canon.
You shouldn't. You shouldn't, quite frankly,
regardless of broadcast.
Yeah, it's all amazing, guys. Watch MST3K. And hey, join that MST3K Dome thing when it comes out. But anyway, yeah. Well, Brad, another wonderful episode. And to the listening audience out there, until next time, bye.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Real Nerds Podcast. Real Nerds Podcast is a production of Nebulous Visions Multimedia. Thank you to Sparks Mandrill and Plan 9 Studios for our kick-ass theme song. Also, if you're in the Denver area and you're looking for a cool place to see movies, we see them at the Alamo Draft House in Littleton and now also in Sloan's Lake. Thank you to Colorado Coins, Cards, and Comics for supplying us with all our comic needs, especially you, Andrew. You know who you are. And a big shout out to James's mom. I'm giving you an electronic hug that you can feel through the airwaves. Thanks for listening, and have a nice day.